All right, here's something crazy. I don't know if you use Google Chrome or not, if you stick with Safari, if you're a Mac person. Personally, I've used Chromium browsers for the most part as my daily browser on the Mac at least for quite a while now. I've been moving away from Chrome itself. But look at this. It looks like the Department of Justice actually wants to force Google to potentially sell off Chrome as part of an antitrust investigation. Now, first things first, even if you were the government and you were all about this, why would you go with this as a solution? How many antitrust lawsuits could you bring against the big tech companies in a variety of sectors? Why are you picking on Chrome of all things when Google has plenty of other things that actually seem like they could be a better candidate for being monopolistic? Very briefly, if you haven't signed up for the Daily Tech newsletter, by the way, that's something you need to do immediately. Free, comes out on Fridays, doesn't waste your time. By the way, it comes with some free wallpaper every week, so why would you want to miss that? I know a lot of people who love Chrome. They're not going to use anything else. Other Chromium browsers just pale in comparison for them. It's their workhorse. And I get it because number one, the plugins. You can't live without those plugins. If it comes to plugins, then everybody's developing those for Chrome itself. And just across the board, if you're using Chrome, you're pretty safe when it comes to different web apps and stuff supporting it. When you get into other even Chromium browsers, sometimes I'll use a service and it's like, hey, your browser's not quite supported. And it's kind of like, if I keep using it, I might run into some issues. I might get away with it or I might not. So it's not like Chrome isn't a big deal. It's a big player. It is a big chunk of the market. And I don't have any insider information, but it's not like Apple is being forced to sell off Safari or Microsoft is having to sell off their browser. The traditional argument for something like this sort of a move, is if you can let other things compete and sort of break up the dominance in a particular sector, then consumers win and competition flourishes. It's kind of crazy though, the chatter that this generates, because you have all kinds of parties expressing interest in buying Chrome. That tells you something right there. Chrome is a valuable property and other companies would love to have it. I know that the Rumble group would like to buy it. That's something they've expressed interest in. That said though, how valuable is Chrome when you disconnect it from the rest of the Google ecosystem? Like, the reason that somebody uses that is because it's easy to sign in with your Google account and sync that across different devices, especially if you're a Google user. It integrates Google's products like Google Search, and now it's integrating Google's AI, which, by the way, Gemini is by far my least favorite AI product from all the big tech companies. I don't really like any of them, to be very honest. But what's interesting is Google Chrome accounts for about 65% of the global browser market share. So yeah, that is dominant. And yeah, personally, I like the feature set better than Safari. But it's kind of weird though to say, if you're a tech company, you can't just have X, Y, or Z. If you're Google, Apple can have Safari and Microsoft can have its browser, but Google cannot have a browser anymore. If you're watching this clip, it's very likely that you own an Apple device. And if you do, and you'd like to learn how to be more productive, I've got a course for you. It's called Learning to Be Productive. And it's gonna help you get more done in less time with less burnout in the Apple ecosystem. I'll link it up down below. And actually, this is a major feature of Android. Personally, I tend to favor keeping government out of markets as much as possible, but maybe things like this matter less in the age of AI. Everyone's going to be accessing their information through AI, probably for the most part anyways. And you can notice that Google is promoting Gemini more than, for instance, Chrome on their Android devices anyways. I think if you analyze this deeper, it really comes down to the integration of Google's, crown jewel, web search, and how that integrates into the rest of the Google ecosystem. Here's what's crazy though. I think people are innovating in the AI space all over the place. And when was the last time that you went and Googled something? Probably it's decreasing more and more, especially as you're going to AI for different answers. And I know a lot of AIs are kicking out to Google or finding stuff through Google. That's not really the point. Googling, I think, is sort of on its way out for a large sector of the population. And then number two, if you're an Apple user, there's a good chance that you're still using Google, because Google and Apple make this deal where they pay Apple a lot of money to set Google as the default search browser, which you can change, right? But I mean, they paid billions of dollars over the years to Apple. So it's not like getting rid of Chrome is really going to hurt Google in search. if that's what you were trying to break up, that particular monopoly. So I just wonder, is it actually on the surface about the browser itself, or is it more about Google's overall leverage in the information retrieval space overall? Now, one thing I will say is that Google really has a lot of information on people. A lot of that does come from Chrome and their browsing habits, not to mention when they Google stuff. When you combine it all, you have the makings of what you would call surveillance capitalism, which is a particular strain that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like data being hoarded and brokered as if it was the new oil, where somebody sets up a mine to tap different people's oil reserves. You're being tapped, I'm being tapped, and I don't see any of that upside, right? So I don't like the business model in particular, but personally I find this a little bit weird, a little bit odd that this is the thing that they're going after, if they're going after anything at all. So really want to know your thoughts about this. Are you scratching your head? Are you excited? Do you rely on Chrome? Are you worried that if Chrome is spun off, it's going to get a lot suckier? Let's fire up the discussion and let me know what your take is.